hamon ng buhay, di mapapatilo. Ako ang iyong asamang kaibigan sa ating kapapagpapayan. Magkasangga tayo, magkasangga, magkapatid, magkasangga, magkapatid.
Ang programang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Equilibrium Probiotics. Ito ay ang bagong food supplement na gawa sa mga piling gulay at prutas at dumaan sa isang masusing proseso para mapangalagaan ang inyong kalusugan. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay dinisenyo para sa kalusugan ng ating tiyan, tulungan ng pagkuha ng sapat na nutrisyon at ang pagpapalabas sa ating sistema ng mga nakakasirang toxins. Ang Equilibrium
aux input mode.
kailangan mula sa boost para sa mga bata, fortitude, boost to brain, miracle fruit, teritical, at ang pinakabago, liver pro. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may pagmamalaki ng produktong gawa sa Taiwan. Ito ay mabibili sa Dashen, Ghetto Road sa Sebastian Phase 3, Binaugana, Tarlac City. At para sa mga malalayong lugar, mabibili din ang produkto ng Equilibrium Probiotics sa Lazada. Ito ay eksklusibong gawa ni Ginang Malu Reyes Lure. Ano pang hinihintay niyo, mga kasangga? Hala, bili na! MSB Kape at Balita sa
aux input mode.
Magandang umaga po mga kasangga. Ito naman po ang inyong Kuya Dong. Samahan niyo po ako sa kalahating oras ng pagbabalita sa MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga, ang inyong daily dose of news. Ngayon po ay araw ng August 21, 2023, araw ng Lunes. It's a special non-working holiday. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. So we have an additional rest day. Gamitin po natin itong araw na to para gunitain ang ika-40 taon ng pagpatay sa ating Ninoy Aquino. Ito po yung kanyang 40th death anniversary, August 21st. Sa ating mga kasangga na taga Barangay Maligaya, magandang umaga po. Okay. At ito, sinamahan na tayo ni Brother Christopher Manuel. Magandang umaga sa iyo, Topper. Kumusta na dyan? At sa ating mga viewers sa ating TikTok Live at Instagram Live, good morning po. At para sa ating mga nanonood sa ating YouTube Live, good morning din po. Of course, sa ating regular na FB Live. Mga laging nakatuto, magandang umaga po sa kanila lahat. Sana po itong araw na ito ay maging maganda. So, ilang araw na po hindi masyadong nag-uulan. Pero di ewan lang po natin sa ibang lugar kasi alam natin ang pag-ulan ngayon ay pulo-pulo. Pero bago po natin simulan ang ating pagbabalita ngayong araw na ito, samahan niyo po muna ako sa isang maikling panalangin. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mahal naming lumikha, maraming salamat sa bagong araw na ipinagkaloob niyo po sa amin. Sa mapayapang gabing lumipas at sa patuloy na pagbuhos ng iyong mga biyaya sa amin at sa aming bayan. Naway ipagkaloob mo pa po sa amin ang lakas at tibay ng loob upang mapaglabanan ng kasamaan at manatili po kami sa paggawa ng mabuti sa kapwa at sa pagsunod sa inyong itinurong tamang landas. Lahat ng gawain namin ngayong araw na ito, inaali namin po sa ngalan ng iyong anak na si Jesus, na aming mahal na Panginoon. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak, Espiritu Santo. Amen. Good morning, Generoso Antonio Bognot. Good morning, Manong Bird. Good morning, PWD Maligaya President Ramon Berenguer. On to our stories for today. And here is a summary of our top stories. US, Japan, Australia plan joint drills in South China Sea. Transport Group files 1 peso fare hike petition tomorrow. Ninoy supporters ask Pinoys defy fake news, deception. China stages war games in stern warning to Taiwan. Makati Taguig turf war. Mayon seismic activity anew. No work, no pay today. Rob suspects slain in shootout. And finally, in sports, Ayala runner-up in W25 Aldershot. And here is top story for today. US, Japan, Australia plan joint drills in South China Sea. Report by Rainier Alan Ronda to the Philippine Star. Show of force amid Chinese activities. Manila, Philippines. The United States, Japan, and Australia are planning a joint Navy drill in the South China Sea off the western Philippines this week to underscore their commitment to the rule of law in the region after a recent show of Chinese aggression in the disputed waters, Filipino security officials said yesterday. On August 5, Chinese Coast Guard ships used water cannons against Philippine vessels in the contested waterway where disputes have long been regarded as a potential flashpoint and have become a fault line in the rivalry between the US and China in the region. The drill will include 3 aircraft and helicopter carriers sailing together in a show of force and undertaking joint drills. Their commanders are set to meet with Filipino counterparts in Manila after the offshore drills. 2 Philippine security officials told the Associated Press. Both spoke on condition of anonymity because they are not allowed to publicly discuss details of the planned drills. The U.S. plans to deploy an aircraft carrier, the USS America, while Japan would send one of its biggest warships, the helicopter carrier JS Izumo. The Royal Australian Navy would send its HMAS Canberra, which also carries helicopters, one of the 2 officials said, adding that the joint drill was planned a few months ago. The Philippines will not be part of this week's drills due to military logistical limitations, but is open to becoming a participant in the future, the official said. The United States, Japan, and Australia were among several countries that immediately expressed support for the Philippines and concern over the Chinese action following the tense standoff earlier this month. Philippine officials said six Chinese Coast Guard ships and two militia vessels blocked two Philippine Navy chartered civilian boats taking supplies to the Philippine forces stationed at the Ayungin or Second Thomas Shoal. One supply boat was hit with a powerful water cannon by the Chinese Coast Guard, while the other managed to deliver food, water, fuel, and other supplies to the Filipino forces guarding the shoal, the Philippine military said. The Chinese Coast Guard acknowledged its ships used water cannons against the Philippine vessels, which it said strayed without permission into the shoal, which Beijing calls Ren Ai Jiao. In order to avoid direct blocking and collisions when repeated warnings were ineffective, water cannons were used as a warning. The on-site operation was professional and restrained, which is beyond reproach, the Chinese Coast Guard said. China will continue to take necessary measures to firmly safeguard its territorial sovereignty. The Philippine military said on Saturday that it would again attempt to deliver basic supplies to its forces in Ayungin Shoal, but didn't provide any further details. The mission to the shoal is a clear demonstration of our resolve to stand up against threats and coercion and our commitment in upholding the rule of law, the armed forces of the Philippines said in a statement. Following the incident, Washington renewed a warning that it is obliged to defend its longtime treaty ally if Philippine public vessels and forces come under armed attack, including in the South China Sea, asked DFA. The Philippines National Security Council has no comment on the government's plans or latest decision on the conduct of joint exercises with allied countries in the West Philippine Sea. The NSC, which chairs the National Task Force of West Philippine Sea, referred media questions to the supposed upcoming drills with the United States yesterday to the Department of Foreign Affairs. Lawyer Jonathan Malaya, Assistant Director General of the NSC, said he was not authorized to talk about the matter. Kindly ask DFA, Malaya told the Star. Just 2 weeks ago, the NTF-WPS gave a press conference at the DFA head office in Pasay City to express its strong condemnation of the aggressive harassment of a Philippine Coast Guard chartered resupply vessel by the Chinese Coast Guard and Chinese Maritime Militia conducting a resupply mission to BRP Sierra Madre at the Ayungin Shoal, well within the country's exclusive economic zone. At the press briefing attended by Malaya, PCG spokesman Commodore J. Tariela, Armed Forces in the Philippines spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Medel Aguilar, and DFA spokesperson Maria Teresa Daza, Malaya said they were coordinating with the U.S. on the conduct of joint patrols in the West Philippine Sea. Si Ate Fe Mendoza is watching. Good morning po, Ate Fe. Next, on to our headline. Transport Group files 1 peso fare hike petition tomorrow. Report by Bella Cariaso to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Amid the upward trend in diesel prices, a transport group over the weekend said that it would formally file a petition before the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board tomorrow, seeking a 1 peso provisional fare increase for the first kilometer. In a radio interview, Pasang Mazda National President Roberto Martin said that aside from the 1 peso provisional fare hike, his group will also seek an additional 50 centavo increase per every additional kilometer. We already discussed with our lawyer that we will file the 1 peso provisional increase on Tuesday, Martin said. He said that based on his conversation with National Center for Commuter Safety and Protection Incorporated Chair Elvira Medina, the group will not oppose the petition. She encouraged us to file the 1 peso fare hike. She said we in the commuters group will file a petition imposing no objection to the 1 peso. So we expect the LTFRB will immediately approve the petition, Martin added. According to Martin, the drivers already incurred at least 450 peso daily losses amid the unabated spike in the diesel prices. Once the prices of petroleum products normalize, we will recall the 1 peso provisional increase. We already did this in 2018 when we went to the LTFRB to remove the 1 peso provisional increase, he noted. Martin said once the LTFRB approves the petition, the minimum fare for traditional jeepneys will increase to 13 peso from the current 12 peso and 15 peso for the modern jeepneys from the current 14 peso. The modern jeepneys will be included in our petition. There is always a 2 peso difference between the fare of traditional jeepneys and the modern jeepneys, he said. Martin has said that the surcharge fare petition of 1 peso was already set aside. Even Elvira Medina agreed to remove the additional fare during window hours as this will only cause a feud between the passengers and the drivers, he added. The surcharge fare was intended during rush hours from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. and between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Suspend fuel excise tax. Piston. Transport Group pinagkaisang samahan ng mga chopper at operator nationwide or Piston over the weekend asked President Marcos to issue an executive order suspending the excise tax on petroleum products as oil price hikes continue unabated. In a radio interview, Piston President Modi Floranda said the suspension on the excess tax on oil will help reduce the price of petroleum products by 6 peso per liter. President Marcos needs to suspend the excise tax on petroleum products as once it is done, it will help not only the drivers and operators but also the consumers as it will bring down the retail prices of basic commodities, Floranda said. Floranda noted that this was already done during the time of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. If you can recall, there was a time when the retail price of diesel reached as high as 85 peso to 86 peso per liter. Immediately, the President Arroyo suspended the implementation of VAT on oil products, he said. According to Floranda, the suspension should be done while Congress deliberates on the proposals to repeal the oil deregulation law. The ACT-CIS party list representative Erwin Tulfo already filed a bill on the scrapping of oil deregulation law almost 26 years after its implementation. It did not benefit the driver and operators and the public as the government became powerless in controlling the spike of petroleum products, he said. Floranda said that the LTFRB should immediately act on the 2 peso fare hike filed by various transport groups. Aside from Piston, the Liga ng Transportasyon at mga operator ng Pilipinas or Stop and Go, and the Federation of Jeepney Operators and Drivers Association of the Philippines asked the LTFRB to approve the 2 peso fare adjustment for the first 4 kilometers. The 4 transport groups asked the LTFRB to increase the minimum fare for public utility jeepneys to 14 peso from the current 12 peso as fuel prices continue to increase. At present, a driver loses at least 450 pesos per day and a spike in the retail prices of diesel. If we consume at least 40 liters in 25 days, this is equivalent to 7,500 monthly losses in earnings instead of a source of income to the families of drivers and operators, Floranda said. Ninoy supporters asked Pinoys, defy fake news, deception. Report by Neil Jason Cervantes to the Philippine Star. Good morning, Randy Taniedo is watching. Manila, Philippines. On the eve of the 40th death anniversary of Benigno Aquino Jr., dozens of the senator's supporters and members of political groups called on Filipinos to defy fake news and widespread deception that they say are perpetrated by the Marcos administration. They trooped to the Ninoy Aquino Monument on Ayala Avenue in Makati City yesterday to call for the continued remembrance of our history and the defense of truth and democracy, especially by the youth. The event was headlined by the retelling of Aquino's life and death, led by one of his grandsons, Kiko D., son of the late senator's daughter, Gail. In his speech, D differentiated his grandfather from the heroes of lore in the West who swooped down on evil all on their own. They also deputy executive director of the Ninoy and Cory Aquino Foundation said his grandfather had the makings of a hero because he was one with the suffering of his people. And when we, the citizens, share in the suffering of our nation and we join them in their fight, this can lead to very big things. And that is the lesson of EDSA People Power Revolution, he said. Akbayan Party President Rafaela David said, while we no longer live under martial law, the constant attempts to distort the truth are the gravest threats to democracy in the country. In 1983, they assassinated a brave and selfless man. In 2022, they tried to assassinate history using our own democratic elections. But no bullet can kill the truth. And through our storytelling and the preservation of collective memory, we will keep the truth alive and it will have its day, David said. Remembering Ninoy is an act of defiance against fake news and widespread deception. Without memory, all that remains is a hollow democracy, she added. David also called on pro-democracy groups to join hands in bolstering efforts to battle fake news and disinformation, including those peddled by the Marcos administration. According to her, the best way to honor Ninoy was not only to fact-check, but challenge lying narratives that distort perspectives and prey upon the fears of those at the margins. Today, the August 21 movement will lead a motorcade that will trace the route Aquino's funeral march from Baclaran Church to the Santo Domingo Church in Quezon City, where the final mass for Ninoy was held in 1983. One of Aquino's daughters, Chris, called on Filipinos to participate in celebrating her father's life and death, which inspired a large segment of Filipinos who have remained apathetic to the abuses of martial law to finally break their silence and join the cause to break free from the chains of the Marcos dictatorship. Wear yellow. If you can't wear yellow, wear black or white and tie yellow ribbons to your vehicles, Chris said in a post on X, formerly Twitter. Aquino insisted on going home despite threats against his life to continue the fight for reforms, but was assassinated on August 21, 1983 at the tarmac that was then called the Manila International Airport. which was later redeemed after the former senator. Aquino, the face of the political opposition against the Marcos dictatorship, had been in exile in the United States after he was allowed to walk free from detention for challenging the authoritarian regime. Communist rap fact checked as false. President Marcos' poverty alleviation advisor Larry Gadon accused the late opposition leader of being a traitor to the country as he repeated claims that have been debunked by fact checkers. In a video posted on Facebook yesterday, Gadon said Ninoy Aquino Day is commemorated so Filipinos could learn from history. He went to compare Aquino to Judas, the apostle who betrayed Jesus. We remember the traitorship of Ninoy, who connived with the communist Joma season to sow disorder in our country. Because of that, the country is in disarray. Our economy suffered and our public utilities were given to private business. And that is the reason why power and water rates are high. Gadon said in Filipino. On August 21 is a reminder that we should not allow ourselves to be fooled again, that we should not be indoctrinated and brainwashed by yellow narratives, that we should not believe in the propaganda of the yellows, he added, referring to the color associated with Aquino and the Liberal Party. Various fact checkers have disputed claims linking Aquino to the communist movement. In an article published 2 years ago, Vera Files, a non-stock, non-profit independent media organization, cited a 2016 interview wherein Season said Aquino could not have been a communist or the founder of the Communist Party of the Philippines because he was an asset of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency from the time he was a war correspondent in Korea. Aquino had denied being a CIA agent in a television interview conducted in 1978, Vera Files said. According to the fact checker, while Season recognized that Aquino was not known to be hostile to the New People's Army, the armed wing of the CPP, he said there was no formal alliance between them. Gadon, who was wearing a yellow polo shirt in his Facebook video, also accused Aquino of involvement in the 1971 Plaza Miranda bombing and of ruining the Philippines' claim to Sabah. According to a Fact First PH article posted on One News PH, claims that Aquino was one of the plotters of the Plaza Miranda bombing, which left 9 persons dead and nearly 100 others wounded, are merely unfounded rumors and not a political fact. Aquino was never linked to any concrete evidence or definite report or tagged by a witness, the fact checker added. The Facts First Page article said Aquino was not present during the bombing of the Liberal Party's political rally in 1971 outside the Quiapo Church in Manila, but there was no evidence, concrete evidence proving that his absence meant he was among those who planned the attack. With additional report from Alexis Romero. Tita Maring Maglalang is watching. Good morning po, Tita. Moving on to our global top story. China stages war games in stern warning to Taiwan. Report from Agence France Presse to the Philippine Star. Beijing, China. China held air and sea drills around Taiwan on Saturday in what is said was a stern warning after the island's vice president visited the United States. William Lai, the frontrunner in Taiwan's presidential election next year and a vocal opponent of Beijing's claims to the island, stopped in New York and San Francisco on Friday while returning from a trip to Paraguay. China has reacted angrily on Saturday, reiterating that Lai was a troublemaker and vowing to take resolute measures to safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The People's Liberation Army launched joint air and sea patrols and military exercise of the Navy and Air Force around the island of Taiwan on Saturday, military spokesperson Shi Yi said, according to state media outlet Xinhua. Taiwan said 42 warplanes had entered its air defense zone since 9 a.m., and 8 Chinese vessels took part in the exercises. 26 of the warplanes crossed the Taiwan Strait median line, the island's Ministry of Defense said in a statement. Xinhua said the drills were carried out in the waters and airspace in the north, to the north and southwest of Taiwan Island, to test the PLA's ability to seize control of air and sea spaces and fight in real combat conditions. They were also intended to serve as a stern warning to the collusion of Taiwan independent separatists with foreign elements and their provocations, it added. A social media video published by the PLA on Saturday showed soldiers in fatigue sprinting through a military facility in fighter jets soaring above clouds, set to action movie style music. Taiwan said it strongly condemned such irrational and provocative behavior, and that it would dispatch appropriate forces to respond with practical actions. Conducting a military exercise this time under a pretext not only does not help the peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, but also highlights China's militaristic mentality, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense said. Washington said it would monitor the exercises closely. We urge Beijing to cease its military, diplomatic, and economic pressure against Taiwan and instead engage in meaningful dialogue with Taiwan, the State Department said in a statement. New provocative move. China claims self-ruled Taiwan as part of its territory and has pledged to take it one day by force if necessary. It launched major military exercises last year after Nancy Pelosi, then the Speaker of the House of Representatives, visited Taiwan, and later when President Tsai Ing-wen transited through the United States. However, Sifu O at Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research told AFP he thought the scale of the PLA exercise will be more moderate. It will put pressure on Taiwan and not cause negative effects that will help William Lai, O said. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu accused China of trying to interfere with Taiwan's presidential elections due in January. The PRC has made it clear it wants to shape Taiwan's coming national election, Wu wrote on social media. Well, it's up to our citizens to decide, not the bully next door. When China previously launched military exercises around Taiwan during an election year, they were seen as helping candidates from Lai's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, which is allegedly regarded as pro-Washington. The United States had called for calm over Lai's visit, which it described as routine travel. Lai stopped in New York and returned via San Francisco as part of the visit to Paraguay, one of the dwindling number of nations that diplomatically recognize Taipei. But on Saturday, an official from the Communist Party Taiwan Work Office strongly condemned Lai's trip, calling it a new provocative move by the DPP to further collude with the United States, Xinhua said. Those who connive at and support Taiwan independence will eventually get burned. Beijing's foreign ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin warned on Friday at a lunch in New York during the trip. Lai vowed to resist annexation and continue to uphold the core tenets of China's administration. Lai has been far more outspoken about independence than China, who herself faces hostility from Beijing as she refuses its view that Taiwan is part of China. At a summit on Friday, the leaders of the United States, Japan, and South Korea said they oppose China's dangerous and aggressive behavior, asserting maritime claims in the Asia-Pacific region. We have reaffirmed the importance of peace and stability across Taiwan Strait as an indispensable element of security and prosperity in the international community, the leader said in a statement. Moving on to our regional updates. Mayon seismic activity up anew. Report by Seth de Matera to the Philippine Star. Legazpi City, Philippines. Mayon volcano seismic activity shot up again in the past 24 hours after recorded tremors lasted 1 minute to an hour and 20 minutes, accompanied by slow and sustained oozing of fresh lava from the crater, according to the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS. Paul Alanis, PHIVOLCS resident volcanologist at the Liñon Hill Observatory in the city, said that longer tremor events indicated active bubbling of magmatic materials. Longer tremors are triggered by magma bubbling and degassing inside the volcano. This also means that fresh magma is continuously ascending to the crater, Alanis told the Star. He said that all abnormal parameters of Mayon showed that volcano remains at a high level of unrest. With these high values in abnormal parameters continuing, there is no way for us to lower Mayon's prevailing alert level 3 at this time, Alani said. In the past 3 days of fluctuating abnormal signs, PHIVOLCS recorded a total of 128 volcanic earthquakes accompanied by 76 tremor events that lasted an hour and 20 minutes, 385 rockfall events, 14 pyroclastic density currents, and 6,590 tons of sulfur dioxide emission. These figures are still very high compared to the baseline values of Mayon if Mayon is in normal condition, Alani said. He said they could not recommend any decamping of Mayon evacuees as long as alert level 3 is up. We have been receiving reports that several evacuees are expressing desire to return home, but under Mayon's present condition, we will not recommend entry into the 6-kilometer radius permanent danger zone of the volcano, he said. More than 5,000 families from 24 barangays remain in evacuation centers in Albay. Moving on to our regional top story. No work, no pay today. Report by Mayan J. Malan to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Workers in the private sector who opt not to work for not to opt to report for work today will not get any pay, according to the Department of Labor and Employment. Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma said Ninoy Aquino Day is a special non-working holiday to mark the 40th anniversary of slain former Senator Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. For employees who did not report for work, the work no pay principle, though no work, no pay principle shall apply unless there is a favorable company policy, practice, or collective bargaining agreement granting payment on a special day, Laguesma said. Employees who work on a special non-working holiday shall be paid an additional 30% of their basic wage for the first 8 hours of work. Those who work beyond 8 hours shall be paid an additional 30% for the hourly rate. Employees who work on a special non-working holiday that falls on their rest day shall be paid an additional 50% of their basic wage for the first 8 hours of work, while those who render overtime shall be paid an additional 30% of the hourly rate. Rob suspect slain in shootout. Report by John Unson to the Philippine Star. General Santos City, Philippines. A suspected leader of a robbery group was killed in an alleged shootout with police officers in the city on Saturday. Alfie Alferez reportedly drew his gun and fired at a team of police officers tasked to arrest him and search his alleged hideout in Barangay Fatima at around 6 p.m. Alferez was reportedly one of two men who robbed phone store Coco Gadget Hub in Barangay City Heights on August 9, according to Colonel Nicomedes Olivar Jr., Chief of the General Santos City Police. The suspects reportedly carted away several mobile phones and other electronic devices. Local officials said Alferez was one of the leaders of the Faisal robbery group, which is known for the series of heists that occurred in the city and in the nearby province of Sarangani. Police said several empty boxes of phones, chargers, and two brand new smartphones were recovered from Alferez's room. Employees of the Coco Gadget Hub said the phones were among the items that the suspect and his companion reportedly took from their store. And finally, in sports, Hiala runner-up in W25 Aldershot. Report by John Brian Walanday to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Alex Ayala bungled at a shot at another crown, falling prey to a familiar foe in Destiny Iva of Australia, 6-3, 4-6, 1-6 in the W25 Aldershot final yesterday in Great Britain. Ayala, number 3 seed, faltered late in the match after a sizzling start and never rediscovered her groove in a near shutout in the clincher at the hands of her six-seeded Australian counterpart. The 18-year-old Filipina relied on a 3-0 opening salvo and grew to a 6-3 win in the first set, only to pull down and stare at the massive 1-5, 0-5 deficits in the last two sets against the vengeful Aiva. Ayala eliminated the 23-year-old Aiva in the second round of the W25 Roehampton, which she later on ruled with 3-6, 7-5, 6-3 comeback win. They also teamed up in doubles play of the same tournament, where they reached the quarterfinals before meeting anew in Aldershot. And this time, Aiva got the better of her pal with an emphatic victory in 1 hour and 59 minutes for her sixth pro title. And that completes our top stories for today, August 21, 2023, Monday. Here again is a summary of our top stories. US, Japan, Australia plan joint roles in South China Sea. Transport group files 1 peso fare hike petition tomorrow. Ninoy supporters ask Pinoys defy fake news deception. China stages more games in stern warning to Taiwan. Makati Taguig Turf War, DepEd takes over Mayon, seismic activity and you. No work, no pay today. Rob suspects slain in shootout. Iyala runner-up in W25 Aldershot. Time check is 6:28. At dyan po nagtatapos ang pagbabalita natin ngayong araw na to. Samahan niyo po ulit ako bukas ng umaga para sa ating regular na programang Kape at Balita sa umaga. Hatid sa inyo ng MSB Magkasangga sa Buhay at ng Equilibrium Probiotics at The Shed. Pakiscan lang po yung ating QR code para makita nyo kung ano yung mga health benefits ng Equilibrium Probiotics. Maraming salamat po uli sa mga nanood sa TikTok Live, sa ating Instagram Live, YouTube Live, at sa ating FB Live streaming. Maraming salamat po sa inyong walang sawang pagtangkilik sa ating programa. At ngayon pong linggo na to, magpapatuloy na po yung ating regular programming sa bagong season ng Agri-Talakayan. Season 2 na po tayo. At sa Magkasangga sa Buhay, Season 7.
Aux input mode.
Yan na po ang ating mga programa. Rumaratsyada na dahil po sa inyong patuloy na pagsuporta. Isang taon na po tayong nagla-live, isang taon na po tayong nagbo-broadcast. Sana naman po yung minumungkahin natin sa mga kababayan, huwag po tayong basta-basta maniniwala sa ating mga naririnig na balita, lalo-lalo na po kung layunin nito baguhin yung kasaysayan. Dapat po magkano naman po tayo, maging responsable tayo, mag-fact check po tayo. Mag-fact check po tayo, marami pong paraan na makapag-fact check. Huwag po tayong maniniwala sa mga sabi-sabi ng tao. Bago po natin lulunin yung lahat ng mga binabalita sa atin, alamin niyo po muna yung kredibilidad nung nagbabalita. Pangalawa, yung source niya. At pangatlo, kung ano yung binabalita niya, double check po ninyo. Baka yan po fake news. Nadali na po tayo ng fake news nung nakaraan. Huwag na po sana tayong umulit. Nakakahiya na po. Pinagtatawanan na tayo ng ibang bansa. Tayo raw bansa ng mga uto-uto. Bansa ng mga madaling maniwala. Kaya tayo bilang mga Pilipino maging responsable, mag-fact check. At yan po nagtatapos ang programang MSB Kape at Balita sa umaga. Hatid sa inyo ni Kuya Dong. Magandang umaga po at magkita-kita po tayo uli bukas. Maraming salamat po.